Okay, Mr. Kassab. And you heard I think I saw your thumb go up. You heard the delegation procedure. Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. So tonight I'm going to be talking about bridging the gap between the WRDSB and the parents. And although my comments will be somewhat general, I want to make it clear that I was prompted to come out here by that open letter, and I am here to express my dissatisfaction and respond to that open letter myself. I'll start by giving a quick reminder about the role of parents in education and development of their kids, as well as the role of the WRDSB board. This WRDSB policy has it right. Character Education and Social Emotional Development Policy 2004. In the preamble, point 1.2 states the following. Parents, guardians, caregivers, and family have the primary responsibility for students' character development, including social and emotional skills development. This is a clear point here. I don't want to dwell on it too much. But the policy goes on to say that the WRDSB also plays an important supporting role in the character development, including the identification, instruction, reinforcement of social and emotional skills that contribute to a student's cognitive, emotional, and social well-being. This includes the WRDSB identified attributes: social responsibility, cooperation, empathy, hope, initiative, integrity, kindness, and respect. In what way did that anonymous letter work to bridge the gap between parents and the school board? How does it address their concern and reassure them that their kids are in safe hands? And how does it encourage parents to come up with other concerns here before the board? I quote from the open letter. Simply because a parent or caregiver disagrees with Ministry of Education and Ontario Human Rights Commission directions does not give them the right to make false claims of pandering or facilitating child abuse or pedophilia. This behavior is egregious, although it is a tried and tested method to attack public education in an effort to reverse human rights and equity protections for marginalized groups. This statement alone is full of accusations and assumptions about the parents' intent. The school board communications team can and should do better and should be held to a higher standard. Here's another quote. Many of these arguments are veiled attempts to target the 2S LGBTQIA+ children and families. This aligns with wider attempts over the past year to target public education and the need to address achievement and well-being gaps that exist among Indigenous, Black, racialized students, those with special education identifications, and those coming out of poverty. Another statement full of assumptions. Returning to those attributes, social responsibility. This one is an important one to reflect on, especially for the board staff. It's only achieved through the embodiment of the rest of those attributes, not through empty words and virtue signaling. Parents don't generally come to the board to delegate on how great of a job you're doing as trustees or as school board staff. They come because they're concerned. Many parents feel like they're not being heard, asked questions, or being consulted on critical decisions that impact their kids and their education. They're frustrated, angry, and some have lost their faith completely in the public school system. That doesn't diminish or minimize the legitimacy of their concerns. The board not only has the difficult job of understanding and addressing these concerns, but also the responsibility to be professional and respectful in doing so. The board needs to remember those identified attributes. Cooperate with parents and caregivers, take initiative on fostering a positive, transparent relationship with them, and more importantly, treat them with integrity and respect. Making assumptions and speculations about an intention of a parent's concern is not the job of the board. Does the board have a process of reviewing external communication? And who is responsible for this process? Although the letter was not signed, and when asked during a meeting who was responsible, all staff present stood up. Is it fair to assume that it was reviewed by the communication team and that the accountability falls under the chief communications officer? The WRDSB communications policy 2001 is quite short and general and does not provide a sufficient framework to communicate properly with the public. The section referring to addressing the public is as follows. 2.3. Thus, the board is committed to being responsive to the public and staff by encouraging open and effective two-way communication and engagement, developing cooperative and constructive relationships and partnerships that engage internal and external stakeholders, being accessible to provide accurate, understandable, and timely information via a variety of channels. Very small section. My first proposed solution tonight is to revisit this policy, ensuring that there is professional communication standards involved and guidelines that describe exactly how the board is to communicate and respond externally. Also, keeping in mind those attributes that I mentioned earlier. The second concern that I have tonight, and I share with many people in the region that I've spoken to, is the lack of understanding in which the way the board meetings are being conducted and should be conducted, which causes confusion and skews the decision-making process. At the previous meeting, committee of the whole meeting, the process of the consent agenda was misunderstood and misused in an undemocratic way to silence conversation that needed to be had. Robert's Rules explanation of consent agendas are clear that any member can remove an item from there. As a reminder, different perspectives are allowed and encouraged, not just ones that agree. And you've all been elected. Now it's time to put away egos and represent the voices that voted you in. So I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt and assume that the best intentions were there. And this was just a misunderstanding of the rules. But I think it's important to highlight and correct this misunderstanding so that it doesn't happen again in the future. And so the public can regain some confidence in a fair process. So my second proposed solution for tonight is for the board to get some training and get acquainted with Robert's Rules to ensure that different voices and opinions are heard. And I think this personally should be a prerequisite to chairing the board, because I will believe this will clear up understanding of what is the right of every board member and what's not up for vote. So let's start there. A relationship with your primary stakeholder based on good faith, respectful public responses, and understanding of how to conduct meetings correctly. These steps will move us a little bit forward towards regaining the confidence of parents in the public education once more. And I hope the next time I come here to delegate, I can actually talk about what we're all here for, which is education. Thank you.
Okay, questions of clarification, and I will note that following the last meeting, there was a clarification sent to trustees that the decision at the last meeting about the consent agenda was incorrect, and there was an apology to trustee Watson, so we will be correcting that moving forward. Trustee Ramsey, you have a question of clarification.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the delegation, thank you for coming and for stating your remarks. My question is that you talked a lot about lack of a better word, protocols and so forth. So if I hope this is fair to ask this question, that if your delegation is referred to staff, how would you like to be treated in terms of a response?
What, sorry, what type of response would?
No, how would he like to be treated? Would he be expecting a very public response, or someone contacting him by letter, or someone?
So that would be the type of response, a public response.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Sorry, Mr. Kassad.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey, for the question. And I would definitely expect, out of professionalism and respect, to receive and direct response to myself addressing my concerns. If then the board feels like they want to make a public statement about how they responded to me, that would be fine, but at least I deserve as a parent a response directly to myself.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Watson,
Thank you.
clarification?
Yes. Well, actually, no, I wanted to refer the recommendations to staff and so that staff can follow up about the recommendation.
Okay, would somebody like to second that? Trustee Ramsey? Okay, all in favor of referring the recommendations to staff? Thank you. And
Just a point of clarification.
Trustee Wasim?
For forwarding the
We're in the-
recommendations to staff, does that mean for like consideration or does that mean for implementation?
It is for up to staff to consider.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And opposed?
Point of information, those
Opposed? There's two opposed. Okay,
Those
thank you.
recommendations were specifically about trustees getting extra training. I think it's very valid.
Well,
So-
it's been referred to staff. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Cassatt, for your delegation.